You are deserving of happiness. You are deserving of healing. You are deserving of joy.
Whatever your dream is, whatever your passion is, work towards it. And put God first. God has to be in your life.
Wanted to use the skills and the training, hopefully to advocate on behalf of the community. I'm able to say that on Chop It Up. Be prepared to keep it real.
Hello and welcome to the Chop It Up podcast, the show that's unfiltered and unapologetic. Each episode will bring you closer to finding your purpose, so be sure to listen all the way through. Now, here's your host, Carmisha Superville.
Welcome back to the Chop It Up podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to my Chop It Up family. How y'all doing? Listen, you guys, I always say from the top of the episode, thank you so much for just championing. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. You guys, I get so many beautiful text messages and even messages, DMs, that, people are listening, and we have like a core group that really enjoys the content. And I hope you guys know how fulfilling that is for me and for our team. So thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you for listening. Continue spreading the word. And of course, we're back with a brand new episode, baby. Yeah. You guys, I am so excited to talk to this prolific individual tonight. You guys, we connected so organically online. It was just like we were sisters. Like we just kind of like finished each other's sentences. And y'all know, ladies and gents, y'all know when y'all find somebody that kind of moves and think like you get excited, right? So I'm really excited and more so honored because I was able to also witness her as she received a new title as doctor. So I'm super excited to speak to this thought leader. We are speaking with Dr. Joa Macnalie, and she is a God-fearing fashionista. She is a multi-talented thought leader, an author, speaker, and fashion coach. Tonight, we are going to have a powerful but exciting conversation on discernment. I know you guys may have heard this word, discernment. What does it mean to be discerning? Why do I need to be discerning? Why I gotta worry about who his family is? Why I gotta worry about her background? I ain't gotta worry about that. I'm gonna just go with the vibes. No, tonight we're gonna talk about the power of discerning and how dangerous it can be as well. So let's get into it. My guest, are you ready to chop it up?
I am so ready. Thank you for such an exciting introduction. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So welcome to Chop It Up. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself, Joa.
So as you said, I have just stepped into a new level, a new title of Dr. Joa Macnalie. As you eloquently stated, I have my doctorates in education and a specialty in curriculum and instruction. So on my own time, what I do is write curriculum and instruction for schools, for teachers, for different companies. I also am an author, so I have a few books that I have authored, as well as a curriculum, a national curriculum. As you said, I am a fashionista. I love fashion. I love playing in closets, and I love dressing people. I also am a speaker. So I do a lot in one. My company is called Joa's Arc because I do so many things, and I'm just putting them into my toolboxes and just using all the gifts that God has given me to really just help people. That's what I'm passionate about.
Yes. And I love your tagline. I wanted to mention that I am on purpose. I love that tagline. Tell us about that. Like, why did you, lead with that, and how have you led with that in real time?
I think that one of the most important days of a person's life is finding out your purpose. Why are you here? Why were you born? Why were you put on this earth? What is it that you're supposed to be doing? I think once a person finds out that purpose, they live their life differently. They walk differently. They talk differently. Everything they do is on purpose because they know their purpose. And so for me, I found my purpose when I was really young. I knew that I was called to people. I knew that I was called to speak. I knew that I was called to influence. I think that God gives that naturally to people. I didn't have to look for it. It was a gift that I naturally drew people in. And so because I knew that, I just sought it out. And so I tried to just figure out, how can I use all that I am to, one, glorify God. I want all my talents, all my gifts to glorify God, point back to him, but also help his people. And so everything that I do with a purpose. And so that's where that tagline comes from. I am on purpose.
I love that. I love that. Let me just say, it's been such an honor and a pleasure meeting you. I remember our first conversation, and, it's so refreshing because when you meet powerful women, right? And women that, like understands the hustle, understand the movements and the journey, man, is so prolific. I want you to know that talking to you as we got to know each other, you really touched me. I had shared the first time we spoke, I was getting ready to go to the gym. And honestly, that's why I always say, no man is an island. Like, no man is an island. You need to find community. You need to find your people.
Absolutely.
Because when we finished having that conversation, and that was our first conversation, but it was so organic, it was so rich.
Yes.
When I tell you, when I arrived to the gym, I felt lifted. I felt like, wow, I found somebody that understands. You know what I'm saying? And we
Wow.
were able to connect. Yeah. So I just want to thank you. And I can see how God is using you, because
Wow.
that type of energy, man, that type of energy has to be godly.
But Kamisha,
Yes.
I have to say the same thing about you. I believe that you can only attract what you are and who you are. And the energy that you put out, not only was our conversation enriching, it was authentic. And so, we hear all the kinds of things about women don't get along and women are catty and only one woman can, reign at one time. You are living proof that women can coexist together and thrive together. Your energy is just so pure. It's exciting. You want to get around it. And so I think that you are finding people because that's who you are, and you're connecting genuinely to them because that's what you put out into the world. So I'm honored that you feel that way about me, but I can't let you slip and not say the same thing about you. You are exactly who you're describing when it relates to me as well.
Thank you, man. Listen, to God be the glory. Thank you. And I'm so excited about this conversation. And I said, we discussed that we wanted it to be organic because we're living in trying times. And especially me, being in New York City, and you hear about the crime and all the different things that's happening. We wanted to talk about discernment, but we wanted to flip it a little bit. And I love the flip that we're gonna undertake today. So let's talk about it, the dangers of discernment. Before we get there, what is discernment? I always hear that word. What is discernment?
It's such a good question and such a good way to lead in. I want to give a working definition so that we understand what it is that we're talking about. And as we move through the topic, that people really understand what it is that we're saying. So a good working definition is the perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining a spiritual guidance and understanding. And I'm going to break that down. All that is saying is it is the ability to hear, to see, or become aware of something in the presence of what seems to be nothing. I want y'all to think about that. The ability to hear, to see, to become aware of something or someone in the presence of what seems to be nothing. So have you ever been around, Kamisha, of an individual who people really love, who people really admire? They speak well of them. They're very fond of them. They resonate well with others. And then you're introduced to that same person and you get a different vibe.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
You've been there. Yes. Yeah. So you start to perceive you start to hear or see on a deeper level something that others are not perceiving about that same person. You're having a different experience with that person or that something that others are not. And so to be discerning is to be able to be in a sea of people that other people are not catching up or picking up on the same signals that somehow you are picking up on. I'll give you a really good example of this too, if I could. And my sister won't mind me talking about this. It's her testimony, but we talk about this all the time publicly. When she first began dating what's going to be her soon-to-be ex-husband now, she had brought him over to introduce him to the family. And I'm Haitian, I'm West Indian. I was born and I was raised there. And so I'm Haitian through and through. Yeah, hey. And so, as a Caribbean woman,
yes,
culture is a big deal. And so how someone presents themselves really matters. And this gentleman, he presented himself well. He was pleasant, he was smiling, he had greeted everybody. And in Caribbean culture and Haitian culture, you just don't come into people's house and say hi, right? It's a hug and a kiss, and it's important. And he presented himself as such. So he had met my mother, he met my grandmother, he met my brother and everyone else. And I remember sitting in the room, I was in the corner of the room on the computer. Till this day, I remember this. He had come in through the living room, and I was the last person that he was to meet. And so my sister, very nervously, she says, Joa, I want you to meet this gentleman. And Kamisha, I didn't even have to turn my head. From the corner of my eye, I perceived him. I could see him. And I knew, my sister will tell you to this day, I knew that behind the smile, behind the pleasantries, behind all the greeting and the way that he presented himself, I told my sister these exact words. This man has come to siphon your destiny. This is a demonic contingency that is going to derail your life and your purpose. And I would not even get up to meet him. I don't suffer a witch. And so I told her all of these things that I could see in the spiritual world, right? So that we're talking about discernment. Discernment is being able to get a spiritual download. You're looking at a natural thing, but spiritually, you're getting a different download. You're getting a deeper understanding of what's really going on, of who a person really is, of what's being said on a deeper level. And so it took 12 years for them to see what I saw on the first day. So I don't know if you want to say something here, but as we talked about the dangerous gift of discernment, and I want to talk about why that's dangerous a little bit. So usually most people do not associate discernment with danger. When you think about danger, you think about harm or injury, right? But there's another definition of danger that people do not perceive, and it's relatable to this topic. It is the likeliness to cause problems or adverse consequences. So when you are the only person in the room who can read the room, who can read a person, you become a problem.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got it. Okay. I got it.
You understand? You are likely to cause problems because you do not follow the status quo. You do not conform. You're not a bandwagon fan. And so while everybody is praising this person, while everybody is receiving this person well, you're getting a different download. And you're having to be careful. You're trying to warn people, right? You're trying to keep people from going down into a deeper pit. And guess what? Spirits, demons know who's who and what rank you are spiritually. So now you become a problem to them because they know you know who they are, who they truly are.
Wow, powerful. So I want to share this. Remember your last sentence. Oh, can I interject here?
Absolutely.
Can I interject? Okay. I don't want you to forget your last word.
Okay.
But I'm so happy you said that. Many years ago, I met someone in the social media world. Really admire that person. Admire them. Joa, when I tell you I admire this person, like honestly, I would drink their bath water. Like it was that. It was really. I was so mesmerized by this individual. I really was. And people, it wasn't like not on no gay stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because it was a female. It was another female. But it was just like, damn, like she's fly, she's beautiful, she's smart. Man, she checked all the boxes. And literally, I saw myself in her. Like it was the craziest thing, like her hustle and grind. And I was following her during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? I just haphazardly fell onto her page. And I was just like, who is this person? Because I was like, yo, her whole demeanor and vibe reminded me of me. You know, but just like a better version, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? She's killing it. And I used to like daydream about meeting her. And it was not a celebrity because I don't really care for celebrities like that, right? It was just an everyday person that I knew it took a lot to build up your business to where it is. So I respect that. You know what I'm saying? And when you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, nah, man, I gotta meet this person. I gotta meet this person. Reach out, you know me, I don't play, Joe, you know what I'm saying? We got there in here, so there is no weapons, right? No weapons formed against us. And the beautiful thing about really knowing who you are, like you mentioned about discernment, is that there's no fear. You're fearless. So there's nobody that's off limits. I'm gonna go for it. We're gonna go for it. Period. And also being Caribbean. So I went for it. So I hit up in the DM. She didn't answer. And obviously I know she wasn't gonna answer. And I kept hitting her up, following her page, da 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 da. And one evening I happened to notice that she was in my vicinity. So I pulled up and I was like, yo, listen, I would love to do X, Y, and Z. And we developed a relationship and we were able to do some good things. But let me just say this. In this relationship, it was so sad how it ended because it ended before it began. And it was definitely no fault of my own. It was just, I was mistreated in a situation. And I expressed that to this person. I expressed that because that was, somebody on their team. And the person said to me, the person that I admire, they apologized. They're sorry that happened. But that was it. They never spoke to me again, ever. And when I tell you, we had good synergy, like my company, like we went above and beyond. We rolled out the red carpet because I really admired this person and I wanted to develop a relationship. But nonetheless, everyone loves her. Everyone loves this individual. It's like, it's can't do no wrong. But because I had that relationship and I had that experience, and I tried to mend it, and it was still like, nah, I ain't even gonna rock with you. For me, just standing up for myself, I was like, I got you. Everybody sees something different to what you're putting out in the universe. But because I had that real life experience, I see what you're about. And to this day, I never understood it, but now I understand what you're just saying. Kamisha, your spirit and hers ain't never gonna mix because you see something that others could never see.
And not only that, you're going to, I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
Yes, no, please.
You are going to speak up in the face of injustice.
Always. Always. And my mother.
Do you know how much power that is?
Let me just tell you, you know what's so crazy, girl? I want to preach. I want to cry. I don't know how I feel right now. But let me just tell you this. For so long, I used to feel like, nah, man, I shouldn't speak up. Nah, man, like, I'm not going to say anything. And my mother used to always say, don't say anything. You always make it worse. But it's just not in me. And this has always been, I've always been an activist. Like I've always seen injustice, the littlest thing, and I have to speak out against it. It's just not in me to be quiet. sometimes I try to decipher, and now I try to be more discerning when I need to go and when I need to pull back, right? And it's
Yeah.
always that wrestle, right? That back and forth. But what would you say to someone like that? That's conflicted at times.
I mean, this
Yeah,
is so
because you
good.
said
First of all,
you
thank you for sharing that, because I think so many people can relate to what you're saying, right? I try to say to people all the time, especially young women coming up, social media reels, reels, are not real, real, right? So we know that social media reels exist so that you can only put up your highs. You put up your best foot forward. You put your best footage forward. But that's not usually the people that you get in real life. And I'm not saying that this is true for everyone, but what I'm saying is this is why you actually need discernment, right? And so I want to say to what you just said, that sometimes rejection is God's protection.
Say that again.
Sometimes rejection is God's protection. Sometimes we can't see as far as God sees. Not sometimes, we can never see as far as God sees, right?
Yes.
And so here it is, you met this influencer or this person that you really admired because you said something really important. The reason that you admired her is because you saw you in her.
I did.
You saw her hustle. Those are the things that spoke to you, right?
Yes.
So here it is, you admire this person and you have plans on how you guys can collaborate, on how you guys can do wonderful things together and grow together and eat together and, just do genuine things together. And you can't foresee what this person's really into. You don't know you don't know what kind of business this person is really running. And so sometimes that rejection, right? Because it's almost like as if you didn't get an answer. You had no closure. You had no understanding as to what happened. We had really good synergy. We had really good, we mixed well together. And now you just dropped me.
Literally.
And I'll tell you, sometimes God does that. Sometimes God does it. That has happened to me so many times where I just thought that I was going somewhere with a specific person and it just got dropped in the middle, of it. And we have to trust God that he knows, because the other thing with discernment, right? It is a holy boldness. It is a purity. So discernment is not only it's not only a witch hunt for you to understand how other people are behaving, but discernment allows you to correctly judge yourself. So you're able to discern what's good and what's not good within yourself. And that's why you're so pure as an individual. You're presenting your authentic self to people because you are discerning what's right within yourself all the time. I know that's how I am. I don't get up here and pretend that I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I am always testing my intentions. I'm a very intentional person. Good or bad, I want to ask myself, why are you doing this? What's your reason for doing that? Very few people know their intentions. Very few people test themselves. And so when you walk around as a pure person, guess what, Kamisha? She probably saw your authenticity. She probably saw the purity of your heart. And again, I just told you that there is another definition of danger that says you're likely to cause problems. Yeah. And so if this person can't get away with what she's used to getting away because Kamisha's in the way now, you are now causing adverse consequences. And down the line, you will become problematic for her. If you are a person who's going to speak against injustice, and again, I don't know about her, so I'm only speculating, but if there's any kind of dishonesty within her organization or what she does, guess who's going to speak up? You.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's able to discern that. She's able to see what's going on here. What happened? Are you still here? Okay, I thought I lost you here for a second. She's able to see that you are likely to become a problem down the line. And so that's why I say sometimes rejection is God's protection. He's not going to let you get mixed in with bad company. Bad company spoils good character, is what the Bible says. Right? And so, I stated earlier that discerning people who are truly discerning, who have the gift of discernment, will not conform. I don't think that's something that you should ever change about you. I think that's precisely why you have the gift of discernment, is because you won't conform. You won't do what everyone else is doing. And so truly discerning people can't. They cannot. It's not on you, it's in you. And so you're likely isolated. Am I right? You're likely isolated. You're in a space full of people, but you're observing, you're in the back, everyone's having a good time. It's not like you can't have a good time, but you're reading the room, you see who's who, you see what's what, you see what it's really, what it's really hitting for. Discernment is lonely sometimes.
Girl, whew, you preaching to the choir, man. Like, you see, I ain't saying nothing because you're literally taking out everything, like all the thoughts out of my head. I even think back to, because I know we spoke about the Migos, right? Quavo, when that incident happened with Takeoff, and how quiet Takeoff was, how into himself, right? But he always repped Quavo. Whatever Quavo was into, whatever, wherever he went, Takeoff
he was supporting.
Yeah, always supporting. And that situation that transpired, I just wish, and you and I was talking about that, they had the opportunity to just discern that the environment that they was in, it was toxic, that the environment that they were in would flip. You know what I'm saying? That they were literally amongst their enemies, because it was someone within their camp that shot him. There was someone in the camp that shot up the place. And so I love how you said discernment, sometimes that's God's protection. God is protecting you from mixing you with individuals who are not truly like-minded. Because what you are seeing is on the superficial, is on the surface. You're not seeing the iceberg below. No, you're not. And so I'm so happy we have had this conversation and you provide a different perspective, because for a long time I was hurt. And this person, everyone glorifies this individual because, again, the aesthetics are amazing. Like, anybody goes on their page will think like, oh my gosh, who is this person? But because I had that private experience, my entire imagination of who I thought that person was just went down the drain. And a lot of us, like you said, speak women empowerment and really speak about sisterhood, but we don't really believe that. So many of us really don't believe that, Joa. So many of us don't stand in the gap for others, and especially as Black women, But I love when we have these conversations. No, please, because it's true.
It is so true, and it is heartbreaking, really. And to the point of what you were, I want to just bring this back real quick because I think it's so important. Concerning the Migos situation, I wonder how many signs people had picked on that night, himself included, that people ignored. This is also another type of danger concerning discernment. When you do pick up the signs, when you have that gut feeling, when you have something tugging in your spirit that you shouldn't be going with, but you conform anyway, this is dangerous. Look at the result of what happened that night. And I wonder how many, I don't know if you've had this experience, but you might be trying to go out someplace, and for whatever reason, your car stops working that day. Or, you keep forgetting your keys in the house and you have to be running in the house 6-7 times. Or, just a number of things keep happening. And usually these are signs that you probably should stay in. You should probably just cancel whatever you got going on, right? But because you're hard pressed to do what your mind is set out to do, sometimes we suppress what God is trying to get to us. Sometimes we suppress the voice of the Holy Spirit, that still small voice that's telling us to do otherwise, that's telling us don't go here, that's telling us don't do business with this person, that's telling us say this instead, don't say this. Sometimes we suppress that voice because we want to be included. That's a human need, is to feel included, is to be in part of a community. We want to be a part of something.
Yes.
And so I wonder, we'll never know now, but I wonder for Takeoff, did he have a gut feeling that day that he didn't want to go that night? That, nah, I just want to chill today. And, you know, did Quavo say, come on, it's just going to be, you know, I don't know. We're never there, but I'm just thinking about how many signs were given that night that were not paid attention to or that was suppressed that ended up in an unfortunate circumstance. That is dangerous for anyone who's getting that. You know, like you said, I love how you said that. Some people are just reading the superficial, the natural, the surface level. But again, discernment, especially as it relates to Bible, is much more than that. It is spiritual. It is something that you don't even know where you got that from. It is a spiritual download from heaven that only God could have given to you, because you have no, like I said, you have no reason to believe anything else. Many times when I come across people and I perceive something about them, they've not shown me what it is that I believe about them. I just know that that's God depositing something into me. And I've had enough interaction with God to know he's not going to lead me in the wrong path. So I'm keen to believe him. Does that make sense?
Of course. Absolutely. Man. So let's talk about that. How can others develop keen insight? We spoke about the Takeoff, my situation, your sister's situation, right? How can our listeners develop keen insight? Because not everyone is Christian, God-fearing, right? So let's just get to the basics of it. How can we be more cognizant, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't go there. Like, listen to the signs. See it, like, you know?
Such a good sign. Yes, such a good question. Yeah. I'm going to answer this in two parts. I'm going to answer this in the natural, because as you said, not everyone is spiritual, right? Not everyone practices religion and, you know, can still benefit from discernment. But I'm also going to give a spiritual sense as well to those who want that. For one, on the spiritual side, God says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives willingly and without reproach. Right? So it's just about asking sometimes, asking God to fill you up with discernment and with wisdom, so you know what to do, what to say, where to go, who to do it with, right? It's literally asking God for that. But I do want to make a distinction between, some people do have the gift of discernment. That's totally different from being able to discern. The gift of discernment is a natural ability for you to do something, right? Just as some people have the natural ability to preach. Some people have the natural ability to write, right? It is a gift that they don't really have to do anything for. Maybe they hone that gift, but it's naturally given to them. Some people have a natural gift of discernment, which I do. Some people, though, however, can learn. So I'm so glad that you asked that question. I'll tell you right now, in the age of social media where we live in, one thing to do is to get off social media. Don't be on social media 24/7. Whenever we're getting information overload.
Yes.
And so when you're on your phone scrolling night and day and night, you don't give yourself ability to even think about what's going on. You're not being a critical thinker. You're not even giving yourself enough time to give a perception on anything else, right? Because you're just feeding yourself information from every outlet. So I would say, as a practical way, is for you to sit with yourself every day. Sit with yourself, practice listening to that inside voice, right? People call it the inside voice. I call it the Holy Spirit, right? Give ear to that voice. Practice sitting down, and also know who you are.
Yes.
Know who you are. When you know who you are and you vibrate on an authentic frequency, you are able to connect with people who are vibrating on authentic frequency, and you will know when someone is being inauthentic. Why? Because you're walking around as authentic. So what I say is, when you are an authentic person, it's like you're walking around as a mirror, right? So that everybody who comes in your presence is able to reflect themselves. And so if you're authentic and they're authentic, guess what? You guys are going to agree. How can two walk together unless they agree, right? If your left foot wants to move left and your right foot wants to move right, where you go, you're not going anywhere. Your feet have to agree. We're going to the right, we're stepping to the right, or we're stepping to the left. You guys are walking in an agreement now. And so if you are authentic, if you are a pure person, if your intentions are pure, not perfect,
Right.
we're not
right,
reaching for
right.
perfection, because none of us can be, but if you are reaching for purity, and if you are an authentic person, you will know when someone is being inauthentic. Because there's some things you wouldn't do. There's some things you wouldn't say. There's some things, like you said, Kamish, you're hurt by that person because you would have never done that. That's the reason it
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah.
You would have never acted
Yeah.
like that. You would have never remedied the situation differently. And so you're able to perceive, you're able to discern something's wrong, because that's not what I would do, because you're walking in purity and authenticity. And so, like I said, I would sit with myself, hear my own thoughts. I think that's a lost art in this day and age, right? Sit with yourself, know yourself, ask God for wisdom, right? Read on these topics, research on these topics, what's on discernment, right? Instead of scrolling and watching who the next rapper, I don't know what people are watching these days, but research on those things. What is perception? What is discernment? You'll be surprised at how much information that you can get. And if you're going to feed yourself information anyway, feed yourself the correct information.
Definitely. So what I heard is, peace, be still, being still. You can only be
Yes.
still by minimizing your social appetite. Get off of those apps. Don't create another thread account, right? Walk in authenticity. You see, a lot of folks talk about that. You see that word authentic and organic? Oh yeah, we love to talk that until we really got to walk that walk. And I'm noticing that more now than ever before. So many of us talk that, oh, I'm real, I'm authentic. But when you really start interacting and engaging and having business conversation and business partnerships, you start seeing, oh yeah, you really know what you're talking about. I got you. But I love what you say. So what I heard is walking in authenticity and being true to yourself, not striving for perfection, but being pure within your intentions. I love that. My sister. I feel like Oprah right now. I just want to hug you, baby. I just want to hug you. Man, God, I love that. I love that. So many times, I'm even conflicted at times. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I feel like I love too hard. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm too passionate. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes when you, because I vibrate at 1,000, I don't vibrate at a 10. Yo, let me tell you real quick, sidebar, because this is so off topic. This past weekend, I kept putting it off, but I finally got my opportunity. Matter of fact, you remember that time when I was talking to you and I told you I was booking myself to go to the spa?
Yes.
I never did it. I had booked it, but I never went.
Yes.
So this past weekend, I said, nah, I don't care what it is. I'm going to the spa. Because you know what I'm saying? That my mind was already made up. And my friend said to me, she was like, girl, why are you going to the spa? It's raining. Like, you didn't listen to the weather? And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to the spa. So Joya, I left my house girlfriend and headed to the spa. It was in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I got soaked. I got drenched because it poured like cats and dogs, but I didn't care. My mind was already made up and I went to the spa. I spent the entire day at that spa. But listen to this. This was the first time I actually ever went to a spa locally, especially in New York City, that I truly felt like a new body. When I left there, I got there like 2. I left there at 8 p.m. I got there 2 p.m.
Wow.
I left after 8. I went into all their room, all their hot saunas, like steam. Girl, I'm talking about stuff that regular people can't do. But that made me see, nah, you different. You really vibrate on a different wavelength.
Yes.
So when you have all of that, and I'm starting to think about it, my energy cannot be shared, and not everyone is going to accept that. And sometimes I gotta say to myself, Tamisha, that's okay, Because sometimes, yeah, you do want to be like, you do want to, hang out with this or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? The popping crowd or whatever, But then I have to fall back and I have to say to myself, nah, because you vibrated on a total different frequency.
Absolutely. Let me
And so
tell you something, Kamisha. You will be too much for some people. Those are not your people.
Yeah.
If you're too smart, you're too energetic, you're too passionate, you're too loud, you're too friendly, you're too fun, you're too whatever, the people that are telling you this are not your people. They're actually letting you know that this is not your tribe.
Yeah.
Whoever is for you, you'll never be too much for people who are actually for you. I've known you, we've known each other, we've never even met in real life. And I can tell, okay, this is my type of people, because your energy is real. We don't have to do the same things and we don't have to do it the same way, but I can respect someone who is real, who is authentically themselves. That's what I appreciate about you. You are yourself. And so some of the things that I get all the time is, you're extra. I don't, people say this to me all the time, you're extra, because I love to dress up and I'm very flamboyant when I'm, in my fashion. And so what I've come to realize is that this is not a reflection of me. This is something that they're struggling with. And now they're trying to project it on me. I'm not extra. I am made perfectly in his image. That is my identity. You're trying to attach an identity to me that is not mine. And I don't have to carry that. Right? The only obligation I have is to be myself at all times. And I will never dim my light so that you can appear brighter. I can invite you to turn your light beams on, but I'm never going to lower my light beams so that you can appear brighter. That's never going to happen. And so I just share that with you because I've been like this my whole life, trying to fit in. But, as I grow and mature, I realize that I'm not meant to fit in. I'm set apart. That's my identity. I'm set apart. I'm consecrated. I'm different. People know it. When you enter a room, Kamisha, your energy speaks before you do. Before you verbally say a word, you're noticed, you're seen. That intimidates a lot of people.
Yeah, but can you talk a little bit about that, especially for our younger listeners? What does that mean? When you walk into a room, before you speak, people notice or feel your energy or your what's it, kinetic energy? Like, what is that? Like, explain that for me, please.
Like I said, people have different names for it. People call it energy, people call it whatever. Really, that's anointing. That is just who you are. That is how God made you to be. So when you are walking in anointing, when you have the identity of what God says, when you are on purpose, right? You are in purpose, you are in your purpose, walking on purpose. You're not trying to seek for attention. You're not trying to be anybody you're not. You're coming as yourself. Do you know how incredibly powerful that is? Out of anything that you can be in the world, you choose to show up as yourself. Many people don't do that. Many people put on masks and they're showing up as who they think others want them to be. They're showing up as who the social media persona that others love. But in reality, that's not who they are in real life. And so you are choosing to do something that is brave, is to show up as yourself. And so when you do that, it doesn't matter where you sit at the table. You don't have to be at the head of the table. You don't even have to have a seat. Because whatever way the room moves in, you will be the spotlight. Somehow, some way, you're going to show up. You're going to come up in conversation. Listen, I'll be real with you, Kamisha. There's never and I say this with all humility, but there has never been a room that I have been in that I have not been remembered. It's not possible.
Come on now.
When I'm in a room, you're gonna know that I was there. I have left a presence in there. I have left my mark in there. And it's not about being loud. It's not about, showing off. It's not about any of that. I carry a presence with me. This is my vibe. This is who I am at all times. And so you'll be searching for me long before the night is over. You'll be searching. Who was that? Who was that young lady? I have made an impression on you, on your heart, because that's who I really am. And guess what? In the world of fakes, people are looking for real. Believe it or not, people are looking for what's real. And so this is why I say, when you walk in a room, that energy is speaking for you before you can even get a chance to say a word. They know this real's in the room. Kamisha walks in, they know power's in the room. They know, high energy, high frequency is in the room. And so anyone vibrating on low frequency, low energy, it's going to be two things. Either they're going to be inspired by you or they're going to be threatened by you.
Yeah.
They can either join your team and ask you how, or they're going to repel you and create a team of people to go against you. You're either an inspiration or a threat.
Woo.
But
man, girl, you ain't even a rapper, but you spitting bars.
By no means, however people perceive you should never change the way that you show up. That is how God created you. That is how you are intended to be. There are nations tied into you that need what you have. So you would be doing the people a disservice to change or to be something different that other people feel like they could relate to, or you feel like you would be with the in crowd. No, people need you the way that God has intended you to be. A less exciting, I can't even picture a less exciting you, Kamisha. I can't even picture it.
Man,
I wouldn't even know what it is.
I wouldn't even know either, because I'm always at 100. Like I'm always. I be scared of my own self. I'm like, where do I get all this energy from?
And it wouldn't be true to you. If you tried to bring it down to 10, it would not be true to you. People would notice there was a difference. Tried that, to come into a room and, you introduced me so carefully and graciously as a thought leader, right? That is not something that I've put on myself. That is something that other people have called me, but it's not because I'm looking to speak. A lot of times I really don't want to. And I be wrestling with God, like, there's so many, especially with, social media. I'm like, there's so many speakers out here. Why do you need me to do it? But guess what? No one can tell about the God of Joa like Joa can. No one can tell about the God of Kamisha like Kamisha can. Yes, they can speak about God, but your experience is yours. Your journey is yours. And so your story is yours. No one can tell it like you can. So he needs you to show up as yourself because the world needs you. He built you intentionally like how you are. There are so many people vibrating at level 10. We don't need another one. We need you vibrating at level 1,000 because that's what you were created to do. And people who don't like it, that's something that they have to work within themselves. That has nothing to do with you.
Come on now. Well, y'all hear that first. So let's talk a little bit as we close off. This is such a powerful conversation. We're going to need a part 2. But what does it mean to show good judgment? So many times, even as females, businesswomen, we make bad judgment calls. Yeah. And what does it mean to show good judgment?
That's such a powerful question. I think that it is in parts. I think, for one, to show good judgment is what is your standard of judgment? What are you using to judge it by? Right? I think that's number one. Like, what are you using to rule this out? And so if it's just by human standards, it's likely to change with people, right? My standard is not your standard, is not this next person's standard. It'll always change. So good judgment for me is, I always bring it back to what would God say about this? What would be his thoughts about this? Because he's never changing. His word is infallible. It is constant. And so it doesn't matter what age we're in. It doesn't matter what times we're in. It doesn't matter between generations. That word is applicable to all people. And so good judgment is, what does God say about this? Forget about what Joa thinks about this. What does God say about this? I think, for one. For two, it is, like I said, it is the ability to perceive something even when the whole world is doing it. And because you know better, you will not conform. I think there is a level of non-conformity with people who have true discernment. It doesn't matter what the world seems to be doing. It doesn't matter what trend is happening. They're on guard. They are seeking out truth and wisdom at all times. That's good judgment. Thirdly, there's a scripture, and I want to read it to you, 1 Corinthians 11:31, that says, But if we judged ourselves rightly, we would not be judged. So again, good judgment is also, how do you judge yourself? Like I said, discernment is not always about witch hunting and seeing what's wrong with other people. Sometimes it's sitting with yourself. If you are if you can judge yourself righteously, then I think that puts you on the scene to judge rightly, period. If you can't judge yourself correctly, you have no business judging other people. You know what I mean? You have to be able to see, Joa, there's this about you that needs to change. I do that with myself all the time, girl. That's not you. You got to deal with that. I self-inventory. I think that's a good word for that. To be able to self-inventory what's up with you. Because I think we always know what's up with others, but very rarely do we know what's up with ourselves. And so I think someone who has good judgment knows themselves, is able to judge themselves righteously, is able to take it again to what's the standard, whose standard doesn't change. And also I think that's I'll park there.
Yeah, I love that. No, you're right. I love that. Oh man. All right. Well, we're gonna close off this segment, and being that we are speaking about discernment and from the biblical perspective, what is biblical discernment and why, most importantly, why is it imperative to survive in today's society? What is biblical discernment?
So I'll end it with this story. We know about Solomon, or maybe some of you don't know about Solomon in the Bible, who was the wisest king in the Bible. And the reason he became the wisest king is because God appeared to him in a dream, and he asked God asked him to, ask of me whatever you want. And he asked for this gift of discernment and wisdom. Now I want you to think about that. As a king, if God Almighty comes up to you and it says, Kamisha, you ask of me anything, you have full range to ask of anything, and you ask for discernment and wisdom. I think that's so powerful, because Solomon knew that he was going to be king. And to be in a powerful place where you have that much power over people, you have that much influence over people, to ask for discernment, I think is so powerful, because you need to know how to deal with people. You need to know how to deal with situations. You need to know when situations arise, how do I deal with that effectively as a leader? Discernment is important, especially for leaders, right? Because we are dealing with people. And as long as you're dealing with people, you need to learn how to effectively deal with people's problems. And so wisdom, while discernment we talked about is the perception of being able to hear and to see and to become aware of something, wisdom is the ability to know when to do it and how to do it. Because just because you know something doesn't mean you should be talking about it. That's wisdom. Or if you know something, there's a way to deliver that message so that it reaches your audience. That's also wisdom. Right? And so 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, the person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness and cannot understand them, because they are discerned only through the Spirit. So in this verse by itself, you said, what is biblical discernment? It is something that comes through the Spirit. So unless you are filled with the Spirit, and unless you understand spiritual things, when we are talking about this, it sounds like foolishness is what the Bible says. It sounds like foolishness to you. It sounds like, what are they even talking about? Like, that don't even make any sense, because they have to be discerned through the Spirit, right? We talked about earlier about the download, the heavenly download that you get of people and situations that you really don't even know about. That is being discerned through the Spirit. And so it is important, because discernment will keep you safe, will keep you out of harm's way, will protect you, will tell you when to go, when to stop. It'll give you discipline. It gives you self-control. It will guide you. It is guidance for you to know what to do, when to do it, and who to do it with. So, I mean, it is powerful. It is powerful. If you do not have discernment, I would really consider telling you again to ask God for it. And we gave you some practical ways on how to start building that, so that you are sensing something that is more beyond the naked eye, right? Because people can pretend and put masks on every day, but we need a more in-depth intel on people and situations, so that we are guided correctly and we can make the best possible decisions.
Amen. Amen. Dr. Joa Macnalie, talented thought leader, fashion coach, speaker, author, and I will even venture off to say, such an amazing soul. I want to thank you, my sister, for lending your voice. No, thank you, truly. Man, you speak words of power. And I just want to ask God, even in this moment, that He covers you, because your anointing and the anointing that you will put onto others is so needed, especially young people. You said that you're writing curriculums for school. Man, you are needed. Your voice is needed. So I just want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for speaking life into me and my situation, because honestly, sometimes I don't know all the answers. We all don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
But having these real conversations
Absolutely.
really helps us move one step further to being a better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think this is why I love this podcast. So as we close off, anything you want to tell the listeners? Where can they find you? Where can they purchase your books? Of course, we're going to share that as well. But please, you have the floor.
Just thank you so much again for having me. This is powerful conversation. Again, I just think you're so dope. I think that this is so needed for women to see what's going on with other women. Powerful women can coexist together. There's enough room for us to sit at the table and all of us eat. So this is incredible. I just pray that God gives you more influence, that God grows this podcast, and it just be next level, because this is what look at the next level conversation that you're having on this podcast. So to all the listeners, I would say you can find me on social media, on Instagram at joa.macnalie. That's JOA.MACNALIE. It's the same on Facebook, Joa Macnalie. On TikTok, I'm Joa's Arc. I think it's Joa's _arc. I believe that Kamisha, when this airs, you'll put all the information out in case you didn't get it. But my books are available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, all major bookstores. Reach out to me personally if you want them signed in my DM. I'm happy to do that and ship them. But again, thank you so much for listening and having me on here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. All right, you guys, you already know. We will see you on the next episode. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Bye, you guys.